Okay, we're going to continue on slide 26 in the year 1892. What you see here is actually Alexander Graham Bell uh, demonstrating making a long distance telephone call. He's in New York and he's calling somebody in Chicago. Look at all the people standing around wanting to see. This is just a fabulous thing. Do you see any women there? I don't. Oh, I guess the women are in the kitchen preparing coffee and goodies for the men standing there. Um, I would bet you anything that these men's wives had something to do with their inventions and their scientific things. We've seen that in the past. We saw it in photography. Women were doing things, they just weren't getting any credit for it. So this was at the opening of the long distance line from New York to Chicago. Like I said, they started with big cities. Go on to slide 27. This was Stroger's phone. Look at this dialing system. It was a rotary dial. You'd put your finger in a number and you'd turn. I'm going to have to show you an experiment that somebody did online. I'm going to show you that they took somebody from about this time right now and they gave them a phone from probably the 1990s, 1980s. And I'm not going to tell you what happens. They said, okay, this is a telephone from such and such year. Go ahead and make a call. And so we'll look at that. That's funny. Then on 28, we've got the year 1879. We had a measles epidemic, something similar to what's going on now. It was in Massachusetts, and a doctor recommended numbering the phone lines instead of using names. I don't know what the measles epidemic had to do with that. Maybe somebody can think of it. Somebody like Philip, I'm sure you have an idea. Maybe because he was quarantined in his home and didn't have anything to do but think about how we could make telephone calls. So the system was eventually expanded to a 2-letter, 5-number system. And I want to tell you, I'm going to tell you right here. The first 2 letters identified the state or the county, and the state and the county, and the next number identified the county. Wait a minute. Okay, the next number, the third number. Then the last 4 numbers identified the customer. So you had a number like PE6 5000, and this system was used until the 1950s and beyond. And as a child, I vaguely remember that we had the number Fleetwood 6 4433. That was our number in Champaign, Illinois. Fleetwood 6 4433. Well, then the Fleetwood became 35. So our number changed and it was now 356 4433, and we had that forever. Forever. Until my mother moved away from Champaign, that was our number. And then they started to add area codes, and in Champaign it's 217. So once you remember 3564433, which is very easy for the human mind to do, then we added, okay, then we're just going to add 3 digits in front of that, and that was 217. That was pretty easy to understand. Now in 1896, we have the invention of the rotary dial phone. There was less wiring, it was cheaper, we still had party lines. This is looking a little bit like what Andy Griffith was doing in the 60s. However, this one was better. You were able to dial your own number. What Andy Griffith used was a phone that was a citywide phone. Basically, you are connected immediately to the operator, and she does all the dialing and all of the connecting. Then in 1899, just before the turn of the century, American Bell is acquired, and renamed AT&T American Telephone and Telegraph. We were still using the telegraph in those days. Many companies entered the phone market around this time, so now we're starting to see some competition. None were interconnected, so you eventually had to be connected to the AT&T lines. You had to have the same carrier. You had to buy your phone from your provider, and they owned the network. And AT&T eventually became a natural monopoly by the 1920s for long distance calls. And this was allowed by law. There was no competition, and it was expensive. I had a friend who lived 90 miles away from Champaign, Illinois. She lived in Springfield, Illinois. And we were best friends when we were 12, I don't know, through 15 years old. And every Sunday, Sunday was the cheapest day to make a long distance call. My parents would allow me to make one 15-minute call to my friend Lynn in Springfield, Illinois. I believe in those days it was something like $2 to $3 a minute. So that was a pretty hefty cost for my parents, and I really appreciated it. And AT&T got everything. That was their bailiwick. They didn't compete in the local phone company business. That was that was owned by several different companies. So then on slide 31, we see 1946 was the first mobile phone call. It was the first call like with something that you are familiar with today. This kind of call was made in 1946. A truck driver with one of the first mobile phones. This was great. Truck drivers didn't have any way to communicate with their companies, with their bosses, with the people they were delivering things to, and so those companies latched on to this mobile phone, and it was quite something to see somebody with a telephone in their car, in their vehicle. Then in 1949, we have the Model 500 telephone. That is a rotary dial phone, and everything after it looked almost just like it, and had the rotary dial. And in 1956, the first telephone cable between North America and the UK was laid. So we couldn't call England until 1956. There were other ways we would telegraph. And then 1963, look at that beautiful yellow banana telephone. The white card that you see in the front of that would have your telephone number on it, because sometimes you could remember everybody else's phone number, but you couldn't remember your own. And this was a push button telephone. Those were, you would push those, you wouldn't dial them. And then, as I mentioned before, our first phone number was 64433, and then it was changed to Fleetwood 64433, and then it was changed to 3564433, and that was the one we had for 60 years. Oh no, more than about 60 years, something like that. Nice to have a phone number for 60 years. I hope you have your cell phone numbers for a long time too.